Hello and welcome to Hindsighting, where we discuss all the movies to win the Best Picture Oscar and try to figure out if this picture truly is the best or is time rendered a different verdict. I'm Edward Clow. My guest today is a novelist, screenwriter, playwright, and creator who over the last 25 years has told stories about secret dinosaurs, con men, organ repossession, women who tie up men who tie up women, nonlinear heists, dead witches, The Night Before Thanksgiving, and most recently, bears. Just like me, he grew up in Miami and eventually escaped to Southern California, which is far, far superior in every metric except Cuban food. He's relatively obsessed with immersive and experiential theater and has multiple dogs that he will tell you about whether you ask him to or not. Eric Garcia, thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome. Hello.
Today we're hindsighting the Best Picture of 2009, The Hurt Locker. From 9 nominations, it also won Oscars for Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Sound Editing. It was nominated against Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, An Education, Inglourious Basterds, Precious, A Serious Man, Up, and Up in the Air. So, Eric, I started this first season of Hindsighting in the 2000s. We're right at the end now. So we've covered Gladiator all the way through today's movie, The Hurt Locker. And devotees of this podcast will be tired of hearing me go through this, but just in case you're joining us for this episode because you like Bigelow or Renner or whoever, I have a theory which maybe I even expressed to you, back in the day. So I've asked every guest this question, and I'm curious where you're going to fall on this. So I have a theory that the 2000s was just a very weak decade for movies. Now, it's not to say that there were no good or even great movies then, but I'm very confident in saying it was not as good as the 90s, which came before it, or the 2010s, which came after it. I think the industry was in a better place. I think, we had a lot of cool things going on. Still indie film was thriving. You had a lot of big studios with indie arms like Warner Independent and Paramount Vantage, things we would kill for now. But I just wasn't vibing with a lot of movies in the 2000s. And I didn't feel this way contemporaneously. But around the year that we're talking about now, in 2009, when it occurred to me like, oh, wow, the 2000s are almost over, I had a real hard time coming up with what were the best movies of the 2000s. Again, I'm not saying that there weren't any. Now, a few guests have added to the stew of this question. People have brought up, prestige TV starting to take talent away, and sort of this competition between going from film to digital. You see a real dogfight going on with that in this decade, which we've talked about. I think, without getting political, that 9/11 had a big thing to do with it, at least in the early aughts. Because I think
we'll be talking about it today because Hurt Locker wouldn't happen unless.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Our movie is our movie is about the war on terror.
Yeah. I would imagine, and I have to go back and we can talk about it. That a certain amount of that is because you've come after the 90s, and the 90s were so insanely strong for all the reasons you're talking about, and obviously for the birth of indie film and the way that finally the studios grabbed onto that, and you're like, oh, now you've got indie film sensibilities done with studio budgets and all that exciting stuff. So it's sort of like, it's like Jackie Brown, right? Where when everybody first saw, at least me, when I first saw Jackie Brown, I was like, well, this isn't Pulp Fiction. This is kind of sad. And now you go back and watch Jackie Brown, and you're like, oh, it was a fucking great movie.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I wonder if there's a certain amount of that where you just don't feel it as much, because we could sit here and talk about 90s movies forever and ever and ever.
And eventually on this show, we will cover the 90s, and those are going to be 9-hour podcasts per movie.
and I would also imagine it's difficult to peg. 90s, there's a sensibility to a 90s movie. Similarly, there's a sensibility to an 80s movie, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You're like, that's an 80s movie.
Yeah.
There's a sensibility to a 70s movie.
Yeah.
Then when you get into the 60s, then you have to start talking about New Wave, and you have to start getting into all that stuff.
Sure.
But certainly, 70s, 80s, 90s, very clear what those are. I think when you start talking about the 2010s, I think you start getting into like, okay, I get a sense of at least what this is.
Yeah.
It gets hard to focus on the 2000s, I think, because it was also this sort of amorphous time. It becomes, I think, because of the war on terror, it becomes this thing where we're all very focused in weird directions, and not necessarily knowing maybe what to make movies about.
Yeah.
By the time you get to 2007 and 2008, you also start running into financial crisis problems, which did affect Hollywood and the studios. And I mean, I very much remember just dealing with budgetary things at that point in time. And we can't just be probably, it's sort of, and then it went back up and now we're back there again. I mean, everything's cyclical. So that's my guess I hadn't necessarily thought about it that way, but I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's probably my guess as to why.
I mean, I think what it boils down to, and then we'll move off this, is I think that the industry was probably in a better place in terms of like the infrastructure and like big studios taking risks on smaller things like Matchstick Men because
Sure.
there was a thriving DVD market and that's gone away and that's a whole other thing.
Yep.
So I think some people push back for that reason that like, I kill for it to be 2005 now. But yeah, for me, 2003, which I don't think I felt contemporaneously, but just looking at that year, and I did pick out some things that I liked that year, but that's where my argument's strongest. A year like 2007, where you have No Country and Michael Clayton, There Will Be Blood, and Zodiac, is where my argument is weakest. Like
Sure,
that's
'cause
a
there's-
year, and we in our No Country episode, which was two episodes ago, you can hear me and Alan Foreman talk about that how strong that year was. Even things that weren't nominated, like Hot Fuzz and Hot Rod and Charlie Wilson's War and Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Those movies got few to no Oscar nominations.
Which is crazy when you look back and you think about it and you're like, right.
So that's a perfect segue to, you're the first person I get to ask about this, or at least officially. This is the first year that we have 10 nominees.
Yep.
This is episode 10, and we have 10 nominees.
Hey,
Look how that worked out.
Magic.
So it was time. So there were 10 nominees for Best Picture until 1944, and they went down to 5. And then they went back up to 10 in 2009. So for 65 years, It was 5 nominees. Now, I can't imagine you disagree with this, but I'll try anyway. When we all heard, that the Oscars for the 2009 year is going to go up to 10, my knee-jerk reaction, which I stand by, is, well, this is because they fucked up and didn't nominate The Dark Knight.
Right. That's at least the common knowledge, or at least what we've all decided. It's the Dark Knight year. That's 100%. I was just talking about it yesterday.
Yeah. So The Dark Knight, which absolutely would be nominated for Best Picture now with 10 nominees, and I did not even pick The Dark Knight as the best movie of that year, even though I do like it. I have nothing against The Dark Knight. But, The Dark Knight is not nominated. Harvey Weinstein comes back with The Reader, a movie I had not seen, so I'm not going to disparage, but it's not a movie that has a cultural footprint.
It's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I like The Reader.
But The Reader definitely got the Dark Knight slot because everything else that was nominated was going to be nominated, meaning like those were things that were either well liked,
obviously there.
That were just going to be there. And I'm the last person to say that you should nominate a popular movie. I think that's a dangerous slope to go down. But I would imagine that The Dark Knight was probably the most acclaimed movie of 2008, or at least the top 3.
Yeah.
Had to have the highest tomato score, or again, top 2 or 3. Had to be just way up there. So it wasn't like it was nominated like a Transformers movie or something, or whatever. I mean,
Sure.
It wasn't something that was just popular.
That was only popular to be popular.
Right.
Yes.
So clearly there was, and obviously Christopher Nolan, as we've seen in the year since, has become an Academy darling, and he just won last year.
He's going to be okay, that kid.
Exactly. Yeah. So the question I ask, let me ask you this broadly. What do you think about having up to 10 nominees? Just generally, forget about this year.
Sure. I think at the time when it first happened, I think it was the same as you. It was sort of a knee jerk, and I'm sure at the time I said, like, this is ridiculous. We don't need 10 nominees.
Right.
And I probably was annoyed. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, hey, podcast name, and age, and also just some part of my brain that decided to not care as much, I think I'm like, you know what? Let's open up. I'm fine with opening up the world and having more options, because at the very least, look, we all know that the Oscars exist for us as filmmakers to award ourselves and to try to help us reach for the stars and to be as artistically beautiful as we can. But they are also there so that people can say, oh, I have X number of things I can see at any given moment. I have X amount of dollars to spend to go to the theater or to do this streaming service and get whatever it happens to be. How do I judge? Oh, this won an Oscar. Mm-hmm. This won this for this, aside from stars or whatever it happens to be.
Right.
For that reason alone, I like the notion that there are 10. Because that's just more things that people can be aware of. It's another, in a sense, it's a marketing arm, but it's another way for somebody to recognize, here's a movie that is worthy of being talked about as one of the best movies.
Yeah.
So for that reason alone, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about it because, I definitely was sort of fuck you about it when it was announced in 2008 or 9.
Sure.
And I stand behind it being a knee-jerk reaction. I think that just speaks more to the Dark Knight's impact. You could just say, like, oh, this movie had a huge impact on the industry, which it did. Yeah, I think some years I'm like, I can name more than 5 movies that should be in the conversation. Doesn't mean that they always pick 5 movies.
Right.
And I think I always bitch about the lack of genre diversity. But I think that's changing a little bit.
Especially with the 10. You've got options. I mean, we'll
Yeah.
get into it. 2009, a lot of different genres.
Yeah,
involved.
I think this crop of 10 is very diverse, and I've seen most of these movies. I think I've seen all but maybe one of them. We'll
Mhm.
get into that a little bit later. Yeah, I think on the whole it's good, but my thing is okay, but we're still not nominating 5 of these directors. It's like there's 5 director nominees,
Sure.
and we're nominating 10 movies, so we're leaving out 5
Yeah.
directors.
Which, and every single year there's somebody who gets left out, and you go, how could you not nominate this person?
There's a director snub every year, or there's a snub period, but there's always a
Sure.
director snub. And I'm always the one thinking like, well, I get annoyed when best director and best picture are inextricably linked. We're seeing more splits than we used to, but I always think like let's have more fun with best director. Like let's pick directors maybe whose movies have no prayer of winning.
Right.
You
But they
know?
did a hell of a job directing that horror movie or whatever.
Exactly. Like I think we would see
Yeah.
more genre diversity if we were a little bit, I'll just use the word, more fun with our best director picks. I
Sure.
could be dreaming. So with that, let's move on to the Hurt Locker. But
All
first,
right.
some stats. With a small $17 million domestic gross, this is the lowest grossing Best Picture winner ever since the box office results were regularly counted, even without adjusting for inflation. So domestically speaking, Hurt Locker is the lowest grossing Best Picture winner. Even Best Picture winners from the 1960s have outgrossed the Hurt Locker quite significantly. And this movie had actually closed by the time the Oscar race had even started.
Wow.
So that's how little money there
When
was.
did it come out?
Came out in July, I think.
Okay, so
Came
it was
out
a
in the
summer
summer.
movie.
It was a summer movie. I don't know the exact. I remember it being a summer movie, sometime in June or July.
All right.
Yeah, so it was not even. They didn't even put it back out for like an Oscar run,
Huh.
an Oscar consideration run. We'll get into that a little bit. Catherine Bigelow became the first woman to win the Academy Award, the BAFTA, and the DGA. This is also the first movie to win Best Picture that was directed by a woman. After Casablanca and Crash, this is the first Best Picture winner to have originally premiered in the year before it qualified for Academy Awards consideration. So Hurt Locker, I guess, was at TIFF in 2008, and Crash was at TIFF in 2004, and Casablanca came out in 42 but didn't win till 43. That's a mystery. I'm going to get into that in the Casablanca episode, but I've always been confused as to what year Casablanca came out because it says 42, but it won the 43 Oscars. But there's some weird technicality.
That's also the way they used to release movies was
Sure.
They'd dribble it out and they'd roadshow it. And so
exactly.
Yeah.
The rules changed. I mean, that's 80 years ago. After Lena Wertmuller, Jane Campion, and Sofia Coppola, Catherine Bigelow was only the 4th woman nominated for an Academy Award for Best Director. At 2 hours and 11 minutes, it is number 52 in ascending length. Number 52 if you count the movie Sunrise, which we'll litigate if that even counts in a later episode. It is number 55 on the box office list of Best Picture winners with a worldwide gross of $49 million. So, Hurt Locker, let's talk about it. I'm gonna go ahead.
Oh no, I'm shocked that it only made 17 million domestic. I remember it being a bigger, in my head.
Yeah,
it's a bigger movie than that. It was the Hurt Locker. That was a big.
Yeah, you would think it'd be like 30, 35-ish, like an indie.
Which is, I think, the budget, right? Wasn't it? Didn't it come in at about 30 million for budget?
It was a low. I mean, 35 million is. Yeah, it was a very sort of bootstrapped indie. I don't know what the budget was.
Yeah.
I think the budget might have even been lower than that.
But if it cost 30, a little bit less, 20, whatever it happens to be, but if it only made 40 something
49 worldwide.
So it technically, at least in studio terms, lost money.
Yeah.
Right? By the time you're done with marketing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think hearing that it's the lowest grossing Best Picture winner doesn't shock me.
Yeah.
Because I looked up and Nora, I think, made about 40 million. I think 40 million domestic and a little better worldwide, maybe like 50-ish. So, but Nora also costs less.
Nora was also, here's the fascinating thing. I mean, one of the most amazing things about Hurt Locker, and I remember that when it first happened, and I was just shocked because I didn't know going in that all these names, the Ray Fiennes of it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's talk about it. There's a lot of cameos in this movie that probably helped. Do you think they built financing around this?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. like
Guy Pearce, Ray Fiennes, David Morse is lower name on that. But
yeah,
a good
but
actor.
still, you're like, you know who he is, right?
Who else? Evangeline Lilly,
Yeah.
who was like Lost was
because
like
of Lost. Lost was huge.
hot during
You
this.
put her on a poster. You use her name when you go out and you get your financing, and they
Yeah.
go, "Oh yeah, girl from Lost. She's great."
Yeah.
She's in the movie for about
5 minutes.
at most.
Soaking wet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so without a doubt, because I remember sitting in the theater and Guy Pearce, and I'm a huge Guy Pearce fan, and I have been, I mean, really Memento, right, as I think most of us, but then I followed him and watched a ton of Guy Pearce stuff.
Sure.
So I remember being very excited, and there's Guy Pearce, and I assume we're
spoil away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great scene, but 7 minutes in or whatever it is, boom, gone out of the movie.
Yeah.
And so, I guess Guy Pearce is not. I know Jeremy Renner's in this. Okay, he's there. I guess he's there. And then later, Ray Fiennes shows up. Yay, Ray Fiennes is here.
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And one of the most beautiful things about the movie is, obviously, in a thematic way, I'm assuming this is why she did it, anybody can die at any time.
Sure.
Right? And that's sort of what it's telling you from the very beginning of the movie. So don't get comfortable with these people.
Right.
It's just the same way you can't get comfortable with the guy next to you if you're over there fighting, because they could die at any time. So yeah, in a weird sense, I think it fits thematically, but I think business-wise, without a doubt, it had to have helped.
Yeah, it was funny because when I saw it the first time, I'm a big fan of Catherine Bigelow, and we're obviously going to be talking a lot about her. I mean, every one of these episodes tends to be sort of a treatise on the director we're covering. Sure. You know, our first episode was very Ridley heavy because we were talking about Ridley Scott. Cool. So that will not be any different here. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because Catherine Bigelow, where she is in her career. So Catherine Bigelow, who has not made a lot of movies, but she's definitely the only female director that we knew growing up that was like making studio movies. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Like, the only
Penny Marshall.
Penny Marshall is the other one. You're right. You know what? Penny Marshall was the
comedy side of things.
Yeah, but Catherine Bigelow, you know, I actually remember my father taking me to see Blue Steel. Remember Blue Steel?
Yeah, of course.
Blue Steel is a hard movie. That
How old
brutal.
were you?
I was 11. Yes, my dad took me to see. I saw my first R-rated movie when I was 5. It was Blue Thunder. A movie
Amazing.
I will find a way to cover on
Blue
the show.
Thunder, the helicopter one?
Yeah,
sure.
Great fucking movie.
Of course, yeah.
Great
Love
movie.
it.
And that was just like helicopters exploding for the most part. There wasn't any like gore in it.
Movie, yeah.
It was really just aerial violence. But so I knew her from Blue Steel and then Point Break. Which
that was kind of the one that
was kind of her. It might still be her most famous movie. I mean, this movie won Oscars, but I think Point Break may still be the first line of her.
That's fair.
Obituary.
Yeah. Well, because also she that's when she graduated into the you can make a studio movie.
Right.
That's the
I think Blue Steel might have been a studio movie, but like on the smallish end.
But like a capital S studio movie.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
action and it's fun and it's big.
Yeah, and not to do a whole filmography, but it's really short, so I can. She made a movie, the Ray Fiennes connection, a movie called Strange Days.
I know Strange Days quite. We talked about that a little bit ago. Yeah,
Strange Days is in a movie that's kind of like lost to time. I'm hoping that James Cameron, because James Cameron, who was her ex-husband actually, but they were already divorced when they did it, co-produced and co-wrote Strange Days. I'm hoping he's sort of keystering it for like a big 4K, like he did for a bunch of his own movies. That's like my sort of conspiracy theory that we're gonna get because Strange Days never even made it to Blu-ray.
Yeah, if you want to find Strange Days, because I looked it up after we talked about it.
Yeah,
you have to go for sort of used old. Like low quality.
It popped up on HBO
DVDs.
Max briefly, and I watched it. It was on HBO Max maybe a year ago, and I was like, and I got to watch it again.
I saw it in the theaters because that's before I had kids, and I was just that's when you'd go to the movie theater and you would just sit for a movie, then you go see another movie, and then you'd go see another movie, and a weekend would pass. Yeah,
Strangers is a very cool movie. And then she made a movie that I had not seen that kind of got buried called The Weight of Water, which I know Sean Penn's in it. I know nothing about it. It's sort of more on the indie scale, like Hurt Locker. Haven't seen it, won't comment. She made a movie that I also haven't seen, but I know was unsuccessful, called K-19, The Widowmaker.
I did see that. That was early movie George Clooney, right?
No, it was Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. Sorry.
It's Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson. Yes. They're like Russian.
Sorry, that's right. Did see it.
You're thinking of The Peacemaker.
I'm thinking of Peacemaker.
Yes, sorry. I saw that one.
K-19 Widowmaker, I did see.
Okay.
And I have this very weird, useless skill where I can tell you where I was sitting when I saw any movie.
Where in the auditorium?
Yeah, that's like when I picture a movie. When
interesting.
Says, and I picture myself seeing it for the first time, I have a very specific viewpoint. So I know, for example, K-19 The Widowmaker, I think I saw it in the Beverly Center, right? The Beverly Center, is that what?
Yeah, there was a theater there.
Yeah, and relatively smallish theater, back left. That's not useful to anybody on this podcast, but that's what I picture. Like that's how I know I saw it in the theater, because I'm like, oh, I remember seeing that in the theater.
Was it good?
I don't remember like the plot or anything, so my guess is no.
Okay, it was unsuccessful, and she doesn't make a movie. By the time that movie comes out and this movie comes out, 7 years has elapsed. Now, they shot this movie, interestingly, I looked it up. They shot it in 2007. It doesn't premiere at TIFF, I think, until 2008. It's not released until 2009. So we're seeing a movie 2 years after they shot it, which just gives you an idea of how there just was no real money behind this.
Yep.
Which I think shows up in the filmmaking in a good way. I think it does show. I think Catherine Bigelow probably got to a point, not having met the lady, that she kind of wanted to get back to basics and really kind of strip down her aesthetic. I mean, Hurt Locker is very well shot, but if you look at Strange Days and Point Break, they're very elegantly shot.
Yes.
You know, very sort of muscularly and elegantly shot. This is a lot of handheld, which I'm normally not a fan of, but I think does kind of work in this.
Sure. I mean, she's trying to immerse you, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of it, is you are essentially in these tanks, in these Humvees, on the bomb squad with them. So I get the...
Yeah, it's an aesthetic choice that makes sense. I mean, I think after Saving Private Ryan, where, you know, you have like the most famous filmmaker in the world deciding, I'm going to shoot this handheld, and so you know it's on purpose.
Right.
You know that he had all the means at his disposal to do it. And I think lesser filmmakers kind of copied that, not understanding what they were copying. And I think she's doing it for budgetary reasons, but also still has a really good eye. And I like the look of this movie.
Yeah.
Which I believe was shot on film.
Yep.
The movie we covered last week, Slumdog Millionaire, was the first movie shot 95% digitally to win Best Picture.
Which is a very Danny Boyle thing, right?
Very Danny Boyle, because he was on the forefront of that.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
And I feel like if this were made even a couple years later, this would have been shot digitally to no lesser effect. But yeah,
there is such a, obviously, a grain quality to it. They're attempting to recreate the sense of sand all around you, and the air being thick with just particles of all different sorts, and you do feel it in the film.
You do, yeah. You were not chilly watching this movie, and you definitely. I probably drank like a tank of water watching this, and I was in an air-conditioned room.
They're so thirsty through it. Their lips are so parched.
Yeah.
It's like the juice box scene, which I love.
Yeah.
Where
that's where you see it the most on Anthony Mackie's lips, because he's just so dehydrated. Yeah. He probably really was dehydrated.
I've read stuff about the suits. So a number of them passed out a number of times, apparently.
In the bomb suit, you mean?
In the bomb suits. Okay. Jeremy Renner, like his internal temperature got to some insane thing, and they had to strip him out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So yeah, I think they were attempting to recreate it as best as possible, and they were in Jordan, I think.
Amman, yeah.
Up filming, which is not traditionally a cold place.
No,
it's gonna get hot there. But yeah, it somehow came off the screen, and I was just sitting there also just rewatching it when I watched it the other day for this. Also just drinking constantly.
Immersive is definitely the right word, because I definitely felt, particularly with the opening. I mean, this movie has such a great opening, and it was interesting going into this movie. I mean, the Iraq War is still going on. The Afghanistan War is 8 years in. There had been a lot of movies attempting to sort of analyze this moment that were not successful. Mm-hmm. People just didn't want. It was partly people didn't want to see it. They didn't want to be bothered with it. But I think this movie kind of transcends that, because for the most part, it is a thriller, and I think that's the kind of the genius thing about it, or at least the set pieces are like a thriller. I think this movie does say some things about war and about these people that we're at war with, but what I like about it is that it's not as polemic as some other Best Picture winners about war are. I mean, we have, this podcast is going to be talking about Vietnam. We're talking about World War II. I'm going to be talking about World War I. I'm going to be talking about, I don't know if there's a Korean War Best Picture winner, but either way, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different wars. I don't think Korea got its Best Picture winner. No. Okay, but I'm going to be
There's some good movies about it. But
absolutely, but I'm saying that it got the prize. Yeah. I'm definitely talking about World Wars I, II, Vietnam, the Iraq War we're doing now. Yeah. But I think that her take on this, to just make it about the soldiers and how crazy this job is, I think is what kind of cut through, at least for me, wanting to see it. That, and that Bigelow is a director who I really like.
There's not really a political bent to it, right? And this was at a time, right? So if we're looking at the time, I think by this point, 2001 happens, the 9/11 happens, and for however many months, year, everybody rah rah rah, right? USA, USA, because
Sure.
that's the knee jerk thing.
Yeah.
At some point, and we're not going to sit here and legislate the Iraq War, but at some point they go to war, and those of us on the more liberal side of the spectrum, we're like, well, hang on, this feels a little sketch.
Right.
And then as time has gone on, it has been proven to be a little more sketch and a lot more sketch.
Yeah.
But by 2007, right? But
Yeah.
I think we all knew at this point, or those of us, this was it's certainly not a just war.
Right.
Certainly, if we're going to war, we're going to war with the wrong people.
Absolutely.
And we're doing this for capitalistic purposes.
Right.
But she didn't take that. She was trying to tell the story of these soldiers. And I know there have been arguments against the film over the years that, this was not. I was a soldier. I'm not saying me. I'm saying as if I were somebody saying I was a soldier in Iraq. I was a soldier in Afghanistan. This was not our experience. It was not this every day. And I understand that was not their experience. She, I believe, was really just trying to tell the experience of people who were in these bomb disposal units.
Right. It's very specific, which is what I like about it.
Yes, the specificity is king.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, we don't need to talk about Jarhead, but, Jarhead is very specific to the experience of going and never being in a fight, right? And then what does that do to a soldier's psyche?
Right.
And this was, what does this do to people who every day put on a suit and put themselves in front of a thing that will explode? And the suit, that's what's so great about the suit. At one point in Hurt Locker, he takes it off. Right. He takes off he's like, if it's going to kill me, it's going to kill me. Like,
well, if I'm going to die, I may as well be comfortable.
Right.
Which I think was the line they used in the trailers, and it's probably the best line in the movie.
Great line. Yeah. It's a great line. And when you look at that, it's a fascinating thing to be able to say, what does this do to a person? This situation that they are in, that nobody has been in this specific situation in history before. Right. Because the other wars just had different aspects. There's a thing that being in Vietnam messed you up in a certain way, but this was, IEDs were a new thing, and somebody has to go in there and deal with it. So that's, because of that, it didn't feel political. And it felt like maybe that gave people a reason to go see it. And even though it didn't do well, it did better than any other Iraq film up until that point.
Critically, absolutely, because all the other Iraq movies, it was all I would hear or even think myself was like, oh, it's too soon, it's too heavy-handed. That was a lot of what was going on. It was a lot of like movies about like how wrong these wars were, which I agree with, but they didn't make a good movie first.
It's hard to make art. Look, you have to have strong feelings to make art, right? That's the whole point of it, is you feel a certain way. You're angry, you're happy, you want to get something out. And so you make art about it. It's very difficult to do it while in the fog of war, because you can't see everything. You don't really have perspective on these things. So it's not surprising that you were saying this was the first movie in a while to be a contemporary movie about a war that has done well. That people will go see. I mean, that's like if you said to me now, hey, there's this movie and it's about ice rounding people up. I would be like, fuck you. I'm not going to go see that movie. I have to see it on TV all the time.
Very, very good point.
I didn't want to see, what was the Donald Trump movie? The
Apprentice.
The Apprentice. I had no interest. Even though I know it wasn't exactly a pro-Trump movie, I don't need to see any more of him than I'm forced to see at any given moment.
I had the exact same response. I had not seen that movie, and I'm sure the two performances that got nominated are excellent.
Great. Have no doubt.
Yeah, I can't spend more time with Donald Trump until he's out of office. Minimum.
100% at a minimum.
January 21st, 2029.
And then I need a little time, and then fine, then I'm ready.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember my grandparents saying, because I really loved when it came out, and I still love JFK.
Sure.
I remember asking my grandmother, oh, are you going to see it? And she said, oh, I lived through it. I'm not going to see it. And I thought that was so absurd. But now that I'm older, I kind of get it. Now, in the specific case of JFK, it's not quite, I mean, that movie's relitigating what happened and we can, but when the Iraq War, when the movies were coming out about the Iraq War and 9/11 and things like that, I mean, I talked about in our Chicago episode how much I loved 25th Hour, which was about 9/11, 15 months after it happened, but it wasn't solely about 9/11.
No, it's about a guy's going to prison, but it can then become, the background is important.
Right. And Spike Lee just couldn't make a movie set in New York and not acknowledge 9/11.
Right. I mean, there's 9/11 or that kind of thing in Inside Man too. Like the New York of it all. I mean, that's a Spike, right?
Right. But I'm saying like he felt, but he did it in a way. I don't think of that movie as a 9/11 movie, even though I think it's the best movie about 9/11. If that makes sense.
Sure, totally.
So I think there's a way to do these things. I think the reason why I wasn't responding to these movies about these wars is that I just wasn't engaging with them as movies first. Yep. I mean, Michael Moore had said a great thing about how how the China syndrome works because it's a good movie first, and then you get past the good movie part, and then you could talk about like, oh, well, nuclear power
What it's
is,
actually about.
and of course, the timing of that movie was something they could have not known.
Yep.
The 3 Mile Island incident happened, and the movie comes out. That's timing.
Very handy.
Very handy,
Good
and not
job,
something they would have
marketing
ever
team.
known.
Yeah.
It's also like when Wall Street came out, the stock market had just crashed. Again, not something they could have known.
Right.
Unless
maybe they're pulling some strings we don't know about. We can get it's a different podcast. That's a heavy conspiracy podcast.
Yes, and with Oliver Stone. So I'll have Oliver on. Yeah, but what's interesting to me about this is just comparing it to like not just other war, but other war movies. I remember when I forgot who said it, but somebody was talking. So I remember listening to the commentary on Full Metal Jacket, and somebody was talking about how Full Metal Jacket, for people who don't know, it's Stanley Kubrick's Vietnam movie, but it's the only Vietnam movie that doesn't take place in the jungle. It's in the city of Hue. So it's soldiers going through like a bombed out city.
The second half.
The second half. But they say in a weird way, Kubrick kind of anticipated the Iraq War, because the Iraq War, which we see in this movie, yeah, they're in the desert for a couple sequences, but they're in like a city. They're on a city street.
Yep.
They're in a bombed out city, a city that probably was very vibrant before. I don't want to go too far down that road, but I thought a lot about Full Metal Jacket. And you see this also in Black Hawk Down, which is Mogadishu about a decade earlier. But it's interesting when you have a war movie that's just taking place on a city street where like people can just kind of walk by.
Right.
And there's a lot of tension in this movie of just like, that guy's on his cell phone. Is he going to detonate it? And like, why is that guy watching? Who is he? And so
the tension. I mean, right in Vietnam, that was because they were using guerrilla war tactics for the first time.
They were in the jungle.
They were in the jungle, and then so there were. I don't know what's behind that ridge line. I don't know if there's a tripwire hidden in the foliage. Right. Same kind of thing here, but you are dealing, with more places. That's interesting about Full Metal Jacket because I'm a huge Full Metal Jacket fan.
Me too.
Obviously, the first half is amazing and hilarious in the best dark way possible. But I really do like the second half. I know a lot of people
I do too.
leave at the second half, but I think it's a really good point that it does weirdly presage kind of modern types of guerrilla warfare in terms of the thing. But even you mentioned Saving Private Ryan, there's those sequences in the French village
with the building cut in half.
Yes. Yeah. And I think about that as well, where you're
huge inspiration on Spielberg, Private Ryan, with the little girl and the sniper. Huge inspiration on him.
And it's a different type of tension,
Yeah.
I don't know how we got on that.
Yeah. I just felt like this was different because Afghanistan, they're fighting in the desert and it's just desert.
Right.
I'm not saying these movies have to be visually, it's just.
But they're not necessarily setting up, near a dune. It's not when you think about World War I, for example, right? And you're in the trench warfare, and you just picture there's a big field. They've dug trenches.
Right.
There's like random bodies scattered around. Here's a tree. There's a tree. Right. 1917 style. And you pop up and you shoot at people, and you get back down, and there's machine guns are going or whatever. You don't think about modern warfare being it's sort of a giant field. It's in cities. It's in, and that's also as we've continued to build things up or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
But it's not about just like, I'm going to hide behind a sand dune because there's nowhere to hide behind a sand dune.
Yeah.
We're going to be dealing with taking over these cities bit by bit by bit, losing ground, getting ground, losing ground, getting ground.
Yeah. And also the people, I think it's interesting because like you're seeing these cities and I just wondered, and I think Catherine Bigelow was asking me to wonder, well, what was this place like before we got there? Mm-hmm. Was it, because I've heard people say, that Beirut used to be like the Paris of the Middle East, like
Right. It's supposed to be beautiful. And, yes. And then we bomb the crap out of it.
Right. And I can't even imagine that. But, and I don't know. I think she's wanting us to sort of think about like the fact that you're just walking down these cities. I mean, the opening of the movie, it's just on a city street. There's like stores and apartments surrounding it. And they're telling people to like back up. And it's just, I mean, and it's definitely different than it being in a jungle or in a desert or being 100 years ago where you just have no connection to it. So I think that's an argument for making this while the war is still going on. I think it has an urgency that you might not feel. Maybe people don't even feel that watching it now because we're so far past this. At least this war being over.
Well, it's funny because it's sort of over. I mean, I mean that there's vestiges of stuff still going on, as they will be for ever or for Lord knows how long. But yes, over at least with a great deal of hindsight towards it.
Yeah,
and we can at least parse out what we think is important and not.
One thing I loved in this movie stylistically that I totally forgot, because I don't think I've seen this. I've seen it since the theater, maybe once or twice, but I haven't seen this in a long time. The titles that they put up about how little time, like how short these guys are,
Yeah.
like they have 38 days.
Right.
I thought that was such a great thing, because usually in war movies, they throw a title where it's like just some boring military shit. Like the Battle of such and such.
Sure,
And it's
which
like
you
troops,
don't
this
know
many
about or care about.
casualties. It's like this I thought was like kind of stood the movie out in yet another way of like, oh,
Yeah.
this is about how little time these guys have to get home without getting killed.
It's a countdown. It's
Yeah.
like a bomb countdown.
Yeah.
You have 36 days left before you can get the fuck out of here.
And when
have
you see the
15
Renner
days
character
left.
continue to just be unsafe and put the other two guys at risk, and there's so much tension there between the Anthony Mackie character.
Yes.
Sanborn, is that his name?
Yeah.
I think his name's Sanborn.
Sanborn.
I always call him Anthony Mackie. Just the fact that like they lost this team leader in the beginning, Guy Pearce,
Mhm.
who wasn't taking any big risks. He seemed to be in kind of a good. The three of them were working really
It
well
was
as a
just
unit.
bad luck. They missed one person. The dude did not shoot.
Right.
Yep.
And they have this new person who's sort of like this legend within the military, as like, oh, this guy's a badass, this guy's a wild man. And like as the movie unfolds, you horrifyingly learn that like he's got at least a girlfriend, he's got a young son.
Mhm.
Because you think, oh, this guy's got nobody. You think, oh, he's kind of like, it's a weird comparison maybe. He's like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon. Like he's suicidal, so that gives him an advantage
Right.
in like combat situations. But no, this guy does have a family and is still taking these risks. I
Yeah.
mean, it's really late in the movie where he picks up a phone and calls.
And she answers and he says nothing.
He says nothing,
Right.
which is
Well,
like,
I mean, I think the key comes, just to jump to the end of the movie for a second, when
Sure.
he cycles back home.
yeah,
And he's home, there's the scene in the grocery store where there's
Yeah.
a million types of cereal, and you very quickly get, she doesn't need to spend a lot of time on he does not belong here. Like you
Right.
get that real fast.
real fast.
And then he's talking to his young son, his infant son, toddler, whatever it is, and he's talking to him and he says, they say you can only really love one thing,
Yeah,
and I think I know what that is. And any normal, any well-adjusted person, the answer would be you. You're the thing I love. This child I created out of myself and whatever. And then the next thing you see, he's getting off a transport and it says 365 days left in
Right.
rotation. And you're like, yeah, the thing he loves is for whatever reason, and we don't really know. We don't know a lot about his past.
Yeah.
We don't know why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
We don't care why he is the way he is. He
Yeah.
just is. And you're like, this is the guy. His whole thing is about being there and cutting a wire, and you may or may not die.
yeah. I like that they don't explain
Yeah.
why he's like this. He doesn't have like like
Some backstory. My father
Yeah.
put me in a closet with bombs.
yeah. I feel like if this were a studio movie, that would be in there. There would be a scene.
I see the note. I see the note.
you see the
really
note a million.
clearly.
Yeah, and I like that they're. I mean, like she's really, because the budget is so low, she gets to trust her audience. It's like a privilege you get.
Yeah.
Like the less money you have, the more you get to trust your audience. It's like there's like a scale of like, well, with all
Yep.
this money we're spending, you can't trust the audience. But yeah, I like that the movie doesn't spell out what's with this guy. The
Yeah.
movie's just like saying, okay, we don't quite know either, and that's okay. The only thing about those last scenes with Evangeline Lilly that I thought was a little odd, or maybe not odd, but it's just interesting that like, we have a female director and we don't know anything about his wife. Again, on the one hand, I'm like, great that it was brief.
Yeah. But
on the other hand, it's interesting that a female director didn't feel the need to, I didn't want like more scenes with them, but I feel like if I can ding the movie on one or two little things, maybe like another couple seconds of seeing him leave her or like her reaction. Cause like there's this scene where they're like making dinner or something. And he's just like talking about, they need more guys. And she's just kind of ignoring him. And so he could be talking about like some baseball game or some movie or something where like the wife just ignores him. But like, I feel like I needed to, I don't know if you bumped on this. I feel like she knows that he's talking about
she's
going
aware.
back.
Sure.
And I just wanted to see that she knew.
Yeah.
Now, did you bump on that, or do you think having an actor like Evangeline Lilly fills in the blank of
No,
like?
I think I didn't bump on it because we're not in his direct POV so much, but mostly this is about him, right?
Yeah.
And sadly, the nature of it is Evangeline Lilly was not particularly important to him, right?
No, I
She
got that, yeah.
And as a result, she's kind of maybe not particularly important to us as the moviegoers.
That's
you
fair.
know, like things that it's also interesting because if you just go back through Catherine Bigelow's CV,
Yeah.
not a lot of lady characters. She's not particularly interested.
She's not that interested. She's not Penny Marshall in that she's not
Right.
going to make a league of their
Which,
own.
you know, that just because she's a woman does not mean she needs to make movies about women, right?
Yeah,
that's unfairly.
No, I agree with that.
generalizing her.
I think Zero Dark 30, which is the movie that comes right after this, and we'll get to that in a bit.
Mm.
Not that we're gonna do every movie she's made, but again, she hasn't made that many, so we've already mentioned almost all of
Sure.
them. You know, I think in Zero Dark 30, that was such a big part of the narrative. Is that like, oh, there's this woman character who's sort of leading this team,
Right. Yes.
surrounded by men who maybe, you know, so I
Which
feel
might
like,
have been a reaction to certain things. So who knows?
yeah. So I feel like it's very much on her mind in that movie.
That's
And
fair.
I don't think that movie gets bogged down in gender wars or anything like that. But I do think it's on her mind after.
That's fair.
It could be a reaction to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your counter to that is good. I mean, it was interesting. I liked that transition of him just wandering down the cereal aisle and just not knowing where he is.
Mhm.
As somebody who's wandered through supermarket aisles myself, I found that relatable. I'm not a veteran. I don't, but I was like, oh, that's interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But just the fact that this guy just like couldn't
Well,
hack it.
he's also just shown there's a million choices, right? You suddenly, when you cycle back to the real world, here we have the privilege, and I guess the curse in some ways of having choices and having options,
Sure.
and you get to choose. I think when he was out there, you eat what they give you.
Yeah.
You don't have to make decisions. The only decision you have to make is: do I walk up to this bomb and do I run away from the bomb? That's
Right.
it. That's all you got to do.
Right.
Even in the juice box scene, you know, like, what do you have to drink? He's squirting things out. There's nothing here. Okay, Capri Sun.
Yeah.
Great. They didn't name check Capri Sun, but it's very clearly
It was
Capri
great.
Sun.
They had the label. They probably couldn't clear it.
Aye.
They didn't want to blur it. That's just being.
That is short-sighted on the Capri Sun people's thing. They could have been the face of Hurt Locker.
They could have been the Reese's Pieces
yes.
of the Hurt Locker.
Yes, take a lesson from E.T. for the love of God. M&M's is ruining it to this day.
Yes, M&M. People don't know what Eric's talking about. M&M's passed on ET, and Reese's Pieces. We were old enough to remember. Reese's Pieces, I guess, was sort of struggling. It was like sort of like a number two
nobody heard
candy.
of Reese's Pieces,
and then
yeah.
after ET,
You love Reese's Pieces.
yeah,
I feel like M&M's have come back. But
M&M's have come back.
they're
They
fine.
didn't go hungry.
yeah, but Reese's Pieces also you get a little peanut butter.
Yeah, no, we can do the Reese's Pieces cats later, but that's what he's referring to. You know, I don't know if I have any younger listeners, but I hope so. But yeah, so I mentioned Full Metal Jacket. Another sort of thing I was reminded of. I don't think it's quite an homage. So after the first time we see Renner deconstruct a bomb, he meets the David Morse character, who's a superior, and he's like, "This guy's hot shit. This guy's unbelievable." It reminded me of Apocalypse Now, how the Robert Duvall character was really into the Sam Bottoms character, who's a surfer.
Yep.
It's like, "Oh, Lance, like he just was like, just the idea that like this guy got respect from his superiors.
Yeah.
This guy was such a badass.
Well, you don't really know when David Morse starts doing it. At first, I was wondering, is he mad? Is this like a bullying type of like, oh, Mr. Hot Shit coming in, right? It's actually a fascinating the way, because David Morse has such an imperious feel to him anyway.
Sure.
I mean, he's very tall. He's just always like he's different. So I'm always a little,
Yeah,
here comes this guy. But it's true. It's this weird type of
he's fangirling.
yeah. But it's the performance is fascinating because it is such a fangirling through either machismo or performative machismo, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Right. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, the language he's using is definitely very macho, like hot shit,
Right.
wild man.
Right.
But he's a fan. It's like he's meeting a celebrity, which he is, because they've heard of this kid.
Sure.
Like this kid is like, because he says, "How many have you diffused?" Like 843 or whatever it is. He's like, "Oh my god, that's unbelievable." Like, so it's like this guy would be someone that they're talking about.
Yep.
It's like, oh, this guy. You know, it's like his reputation precedes him.
Which is great if you don't have to work with him and it doesn't put you in the danger. If you realize, the reason he does that is because he doesn't care if he dies.
Right. And Anthony Mackie, I don't know the other actor's name. I'm sorry, but the other guy.
Brian Garrity.
What's his name?
Brian Garrity?
Brian Garrity.
Yeah.
They obviously were more in sync with Guy Pearce, who didn't take any risks and was on the same page of like, hey, let's be safe. Let's make it home to our families.
Right.
And so much of the tension in this is our second episode where we get to see Anthony Mackie because he's a $1 Million Baby. And he's got a small part in that. Yeah, so we get to see Anthony Mackie again. And this was I don't know that I remember that he was a $1 Million Baby when I saw this, or maybe I
Yeah, I
did,
wouldn't even remember that.
but yeah, I love the tension between those two characters because it's, he's trying to talk to this guy who I guess outranks him because he's the team leader, and there's just so much tension between them,
Yep.
and this third character, and again, I love, and I think this is a budgetary. I really like small character palettes. I have a real big bugaboo, particularly in comedies, but I think in any movie where there are too many people in a movie that don't need to be there. And for a movie that's a war movie, this movie's very good about that.
Right.
There's
It's not
no
a giant platoon where you're like,
not
oh,
a-
that's like the 7th corporal I've seen.
exactly. It isn't even like we're gonna eventually cover the movie Platoon on this podcast because it won Best Picture.
Sure.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm willing to bet when I watch Platoon, I could probably cut 2 or 3 guys out of that
Yeah,
movie.
there's a lot. It's a whole platoon.
It's a whole platoon. I mean, yes, that would be a lot of people, but
Yeah.
in terms of the guys you're going to give dialogue to,
Yeah.
I always just want to like call the fire marshal. There's too many people in a movie that don't need to be there. It's more of a comedy thing, but I do see it in other movies. But I love that this team is just 3 people. That may be accurate to like what it would be.
Sure.
But I love how intimate this movie is. And again, not a big budget, so that probably either was a budget consideration or
Mhm.
they were able to look at the story and be like, yeah, we could do this for X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
So
It gives you the different sort of facets you need to having sort of whatever those conversations are, right? So you've got Jeremy Renner, who is very much, he's the wild man. And he's very much the soldier who is there, again, not for political reasons. He probably doesn't give a shit. Like, he
Yeah.
may not care. He doesn't seem to, obviously, we know at one point, he is certainly, in some ways a humanist in the sense that he cares so deeply when he thinks he has found the body of the kid.
can we talk about that?
Sure.
Okay.
Anyway, all I'm saying is there's different facets. Let me
Sure.
just say, then
Yeah.
we'll get to the body of the kid.
Yeah.
Just so I don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
Each one of them represents a different, I think, aspect to how you would view war if you are in it, right?
Yes.
Anthony Mackie obviously is like, you are putting me at risk.
Yeah.
I am just trying to stay safe.
Yeah.
And the Brian Garrity character is the only one we see talking to a therapist,
Yeah.
right? Who obviously gets blown again. Everybody going to get blown up.
Nobody's safe here.
Nobody is safe. But he's talking to his therapist and trying to figure out, what am I doing here? What are we doing here? Is this
Right.
the right thing to do? He's the only one who asks.
Right.
And you've got kind of Mackie on this side and Jeremy Renner on this side and this kid in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah.
And it's just an interesting balance. So
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, the kid.
No. Well, this is something I just don't think I've quite twigged. So there's this kid who sells Renner the DVDs,
Mhm.
and then they find his body, but they don't find his body because then the kid shows up again days later.
They find a kid who looks like it, right? Jeremy Renner
Is it the
plays
kid-
soccer with this kid,
Right.
right? He has a nice time, but he's a kid. He's a kid who's around the base,
Yeah.
and he's seen him a couple times.
Yeah.
And then he sees a kid, same age, same general look, right? I think that's also part of it is like, it's not they all look the same, but in some ways when people are shot, he's all shot up.
Yeah.
He's been operated on because they're making a body bomb, which was a thing.
Right.
And he takes that very much to heart. Like, this is a kid who they have killed in order to blow up the rest of us.
But he thinks it's the kid that he knows.
Yeah,
Okay,
100%.
that's the part I didn't quite twig because
Yes.
I didn't remember. That's what part of the movie I remember the kid selling him the DVD.
Yeah.
And I remember another thing I didn't remember, just staying with this, is that he sneaks off the base and goes he follows the guy to his house.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool because I thought she was saying so much there about like, it's like this guy's sort of out in the wild. And what I mean by that is that like, he's by himself. He's sort of
Mhm.
outnumbered, but
It's
nothing.
a terrifying scene because you're just, anything could happen to him at any point.
Yeah.
But you're also like, is he going to go fuck somebody up? Is he
Right.
in such a head state?
Yeah. Right, because he takes a gun with him.
Yeah.
Takes a sidearm with him. And yeah, the most dangerous thing that happens is that this guy's wife like chases him out with a frying pan, which I thought was great.
Which is great. Well, but he goes into somebody's house and the guy says he's a professor,
Yeah.
right? And he's got a gun pointed at him.
Yeah.
Because Jeremy Renner is thinking, okay, this guy is somehow related. He's put together, he's figured out the mystery, but no, he has not. He's created a mystery in his head that does not exist.
Right.
And he's now threatening this guy who says, "You're a guest in my home. Please come, sit,
Right.
eat."
Yeah.
And you can see his mind being blown in the moment. Like,
Right.
what is happening?
He's killing him with kindness.
Yeah.
Because that's a tactic you use to diffuse.
and
lunatic.
it was sort of working. And then the wife comes in, and I love it because it would very much be the same situation in my household where I would just be like, "Come on in. let's hang out. And my wife would be like, the fuck are you doing here? Like, it's the women are just like, enough with this nonsense.
Right.
And so, yeah, but it very much messes with him on like two fronts, right? So the first front is when he thinks the kid is dead.
Right.
And then later on in the movie, when the kid shows up again,
Right.
you see him, like, he pushes the kid away.
Right.
He's like angry, then realizing I went through all of that. I assumed all these things.
Right.
And now I'm just going to go at it. Like, almost like sets him off again.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's talk about Jeremy Renner, who I did not, to my knowledge, I did not know who he was before this movie. It's possible I'd seen him in something.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was an unknown. He's nominated for Best Actor for this. Want to talk about a couple things. I think he's fantastic in this movie.
Yes.
I think this is probably his best performance of what I've seen, which is, most of the stuff. I think he's really great in this. I think he's, I had not seen him. I remember being very excited that he got nominated for Best Actor, that like he's the only actor recognized in this movie, which is usually how it kind of happens with the Best Picture winners. Usually like either the whole cast is honored or like one person. Doesn't seem to be a lot of in between. That's a soft stat, by the way. But you know what I was thinking about? And it's just like such a stupid thing, but we're just going to go into it anyway, and maybe I'll cut this out. And this is not just like a name thing. I kept thinking about like, oh, if they made this movie 12 years later, would this be Jeremy Allen White? If there was no The Bear. And I don't mean to compare them because they both have the same name.
No,
but
and they have a similar feel to them.
Similar feel. They're kind of offbeat looking,
Yes.
but they're still sort of attractive.
Yes.
They're both kind of like short. They both almost look like Renner looks a lot in this movie particularly because like he kind of like got in shape and leaned out after this, but he looks a lot like James Cagney in this movie. Like not like I would mistake the two.
No, but I can.
But there's like a little bit of like this. He looks
Yeah.
like kind of like thuggish.
Yeah. Well, he's a little. He feels. I don't know how tall he actually is in real life, but he feels shorter. He feels like a little shorter and kind of stoutish.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I don't think he's like short, but I don't think he's 6 feet.
Yeah.
I don't think he's 5'10" even.
Yeah.
He just looks like. I mean, he's not like noticeably short, but I don't feel like he's a tall guy.
Right.
But I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking like. I was thinking of James Cagney a little bit because I feel like he kind of looks like that, and I
Well,
probably
all
thought
these
that.
people, Jeremy Allen White, Cagney, Renner, they all have a sort of inherent brooding quality,
Mhm.
which is not the brood of like an Adam Driver kind of thing. That's a different thing.
It's different.
Who
Yeah.
was an actual soldier.
Yes, he was a Marine.
But this thing where you look at them and you go, all right, there's something about their face or their body or whatever. There's a darkness in there.
Yeah.
Even though they are, yes, sort of odd, but good looking. I mean, I think Jeremy Allen White's a fantastic actor.
I do too.
He's great. Initially, when he was becoming a thing, I was like, this guy? and every woman in my life was like, yes, this guy.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Like, as a straight white man, I just didn't see it. Clearly I was wrong. But there is a darkness behind it, which I think they used very well in their acting.
Also, the really young Christopher Walken, like had that too.
Sure.
Like this sort of like this, or even like all the young James Woods, like a guy who's
Before he went crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Renner's really great here. And it was interesting because I was thinking about, it's probably isn't the place to have this conversation, but fuck it, let's just have it now. So looking at this movie, this is a little bit off the topic of like the plot of the movie, but I think it's interesting. Like looking at Jeremy Renner after this movie, his career, he does The Town, which he's nominated for an Oscar again, which he's terrific in the Ben Affleck Boston Heist movie.
Of course, yeah.
But after that, it's nothing but IP. Bourne, Mission Impossible, MCU.
I mean, you got to let the man cash in.
I'm not criticizing him, but what's interesting is that so that's the road he went down. Anthony Mackie, to be fair, also joined the MCU.
Yeah.
But Catherine Bigelow kind of goes down what I think is the only other option after to make a movie like this. All her movies are capital I important. Zero Dark 30, Detroit, and A House of Dynamite. I haven't been as into or engaged with Jeremy Renner since The Town, which is a year after this, because it's just IP stuff. And I understand that's the way the industry is, but I just think he became way less interesting to me as an action star, because I don't think he quite has like that young Tom Cruise thing or the Harrison Ford thing, or that thing where being in a big budget movie is like, yes, that's what I want to see you do.
It's somewhat ineffable that it's hard to know what that is, but yes, agreed.
He doesn't have that.
Yes.
So I look at this movie and I'm like a little sad. It's like, oh, I understand doing one for them, one for you, and all that, but like he just got swallowed whole, in my opinion, by IP.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and he's not the only one, and I'm not picking on him, but with Bigelow, I almost have the opposite issue where it's like I really wish she would just make a sci-fi movie or like a thriller or something that wasn't.
Where's Point Break 2, Catherine?
Well, yeah, but like even something like Strange Days that's sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's sort of sci-fi, but
Strange Days is in that sort of William Gibson neuromancer without being super into the down the sci-fi.
I would love for her. I don't want to see her make cape shit, but I kind of would love to see her just do a genre movie.
Sure.
Just like I'd love to see. I mean, I think Spielberg's doing like an Aliens Attacking the Earth movie now, and I'm like,
well, Soderbergh, went, okay, fine. Did Aaron Brockovich and whatever, and then it's like, I'm going to do Oceans.
Yeah, Soderbergh's a great example because Soderbergh has done like some fantastic genre movies. Black Bag is great.
Yeah.
Presence is great. Kimmy is really great.
I haven't seen Kimmy.
Kimmy's fantastic.
Oh, okay.
I highly recommend Kimmy. Have you seen Black Bag?
Yes. Saw
Black Bag is
saw
fantastic.
Yep.
And that's another Oscar-winning director who made a very serious movie and has done a lot of genre movies just because he thinks it's fun.
Right. And
I don't want to be her agent, but I do think that like this movie is a bit of a sliding doors and that it's like, it made her like an important filmmaker. And I agree that she is, but I almost wonder.
Well, it's also, keep in mind, I mean, there's a fascinating, we're going to get into issues of the industry and misogyny and active misogyny and sort of the sublimated misogyny. So you look at Jeremy and the difference between directors and actors, right?
Sure.
So you look at Jeremy Renner and he comes and he does this and Oscar-winning performance. Did he win?
He did not win.
He did not win. Oscar-nominated performance.
He's nominated.
Town, Oscar-nominated performance, but he becomes a thing.
Absolutely.
People know, right? Because of that, they're like, okay, he's a face, like we were talking about earlier, that we can put in the movie, that we can attach to the film, that we can make so that we can make our movie. You go to the studio, you go, well, we're going to go get Jeremy Renner. They go, great, you can go make your movie. Or if you happen to be making an indie movie, I mean, then you're really lucky. Then you're like, okay, I can do this. And
he has done some indie movies, to be fair. He's done, I don't want to pick on him.
And his name has probably helped to finance those indie movies.
Absolutely.
Right? But as a result, you are then tapped. You go, oh, we need somebody else to kind of come into Bourne. Okay, great. He's going to be the Bourne guy. And he's going to Mission Impossible, as you said, all these different things. And then, what is he, Hawkeye?
Hawkeye, yeah.
I don't watch the movies. I don't know.
He's Hawkeye.
I just don't know them.
Yeah.
But as a result, you get bigger and bigger, and your name becomes associated with a certain price point and a certain type of thing. And then, yes, you can go do smaller movies. I mean, look at Daniel Craig, who's obviously made some amazing choices in his during Bond and post Bond career. When you look at somebody like Catherine Bigelow, she goes and she does this thing, wins an Oscar, beautiful movie. We all agree this is a great movie.
Yeah.
What did you say it made? $40-something million
49 worldwide.
Maybe broke even. Who knows? The movies are not necessarily going to endear her to a studio that's going to then say, okay, here's $100 million to go make your really big fun movie. And I think the way that they're seen as you're the actor, you're a piece of it. We can put you in the thing. We can put you on the poster. You're going to mean money. Or you're the director, which means you are the shepherd of this thing. I mean, the producer as well, of course. But you are the artistic shepherd of this thing. And then there's a level of just who do they give that to? And then also, we don't know that she hasn't tried.
Oh, yeah. I don't know the lady. I'm not even saying she has to make $100 million things. I'm wondering, and this is, while they were still going on, I mean, we were still at this point making mid-budget movies. So she could have made a $30 to $50 million horror movie thriller, which would be I don't know what the budget of Point Break was. I think it was a pretty healthy budget because James Cameron was the EP.
Yeah.
Same thing with Strange Days. Those are both big studio movies. I'm not attacking Catherine Bigelow. Sure. I just am saying, just as a viewer, as somebody who follows the careers of directors very closely, I would have liked post this movie. Even though I Zero Dark 30, I thought was a really interesting movie. I'm glad she made it. And I understood that seemed like good casting for her after this movie, And I thought that movie was really interesting. I know it's problematic for a lot of reasons. I haven't revisited it, so I won't get into that. Just in terms of how it depicts torture and all this
Sure.
other stuff. Some people thought it was CIA propaganda. There's a strong case to be made for that. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying, just as somebody who's a fan of Catherine Bigelow, who looking at Blue Steel, Point Break, and Strange Days,
Yeah.
I, as a fan, would love to see her go back into just something that's more pure genre with no political.
100%. You are an
bent.
incredibly skilled filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know how to put together things on all different levels of emotion and tension and all that
At
stuff.
different budgets, too.
And different budgets.
You can adapt.
So, yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I also wonder if there's a certain amount of, I go and I make an Oscar-winning film. I love that I've made an Oscar-winning film and everybody says I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. I got to go do that again. I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not going to, even though I love, for example, like Soderbergh, who went, okay, I'm going to go try this thing now. But he's always very much been sort of like Danny Boyle we were talking about, where you can go and you can make these indie things, and then you go, I'm going to make this big one, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a small movie like Presence, right? That where he's just like, it's just going to be me and a couple actors. And he was so Chris Sullivan, who's the dad in Presence. Yeah. It was in my first workshop of Bad News Bears. Okay. So I know Chris. And he told us all about the filming of Presence. And after I saw it, I had so many questions for him.
Oh, really?
But apparently it was Soderbergh, like, in the closet there. Yeah. Just him and the camera.
Operating, yeah.
Yeah, which is so him anyway.
Yeah.
But the notion that here's a guy who has gone and made movies that have made billions and billions of dollars, who's going to be like, we're going to go to this house and I'm just going to be there. I'm going to have a camera and I'm just going to walk around with it.
Yeah.
He is that kind of guy who wants to try that. I don't know that Catherine seems more traditional.
Yeah, and I also think it's you sort of alluded to this a minute ago. Maybe she's kind of Jackie Robinson, that she's the first woman to win Best Director. Huge. Only the fourth or fifth one to be nominated. Yeah. So the pressure on her is something I can't even imagine. That to do something, to go and do like a little genre thing like I want her to do, might not be responsible. It also might not be her taste. I'm neither attacking Renner nor her for their career choices. I'm just saying, as a fan of both these people, it's just a little bit of a bummer, because I feel like this movie is good, is great even, and I feel like it set her on this path of like, I need to make movies about like a war or about like some heavy social.
Sure. Theme. I mean, House of Dynamite certainly is doing that.
Yeah.
We can discuss varied effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, House of Dynamite kind of, I mean, I definitely don't want to go into spoilers about that movie because that movie is out now, but I think House of Dynamite, I'll say, is not successful. And I think it's like a step down this post Hurt Locker path. And because she hadn't made a movie in 8 years, and she's in her 70s, I don't know how many more Catherine Bigelows we get. I mean, she could live to be 100. We could have 30 more years of her. Yeah. God bless. But
and I don't know, and this would be fascinating. I'm curious about this. Does she wait so long to make movies because she is just very thoughtful and contemplative? Does she wait so long to make movies because she has difficulty getting financing?
Sure.
Did she wait? There's all these sort of different questions as to why she does what she does.
Yeah, I know. I think it might be the latter, only because I heard an interview with David Koepp, and he said he was doing something with her. And when this House of Dynamite was coming out, I thought it was that movie, and it's not. So that's something that fell apart or didn't happen.
Sure. I mean, so many things, as we know, fall apart so easily.
Yeah. So
it's amazing anything gets made.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that somebody who is as lauded as she is, would have difficulty.
Yeah. I just feel, I mean, I don't presume to know what's going on. I'm just saying, as a fan, I would have loved to have seen her post Hurt Locker, I don't know, do something that didn't involve war and sand and death and terrorism. And 3 of the 4 movies she's made since have done that.
Yeah.
If my numbers are right. So that's kind of all I'm saying. It's just, this movie just shows like what I think to be the 2 paths. It's like, you can go as an actor, you could go like IP, let that swallow you, and as a director, you have to keep doing this like only important movies. Yeah. And again, maybe she's still dealing with a lot of institutional misogyny that I can only imagine. I'm sure, and she's somebody who's making movies since like the mid 80s, so she's somebody who could tell you how bad it was
and where it's gotten to.
And where it's gotten to. So she would probably tell you like, what's going on now is nothing.
Yeah.
Not that it should you know.
I mean, I will say this for House of Dynamite, which again is a Netflix movie, right?
Yeah.
It was made for streaming. There are huge actors in it.
Yeah, it's an ensemble cast.
Really, truly ensemble cast.
Yeah.
And the movie is set up to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the kind of thing that is still somewhat rare, or as you're saying about Matchstick Men, it's the kind of thing that would have to be on streaming these days because it's people sitting in rooms talking. They happen to be tension about that. It happens to be there's tension because there's missiles coming in.
Right.
But that's what's going to end up streaming, and that's where the money is coming from if it's not going to be massive IP.
Yeah, I think Billy Corbin said this on our Crash podcast. We were just talking generally like we are now. I think spectacle is the one thing that like a big screen can still provide.
Yeah.
And House of Dynamite isn't spectacle. There probably is a version of that movie that could be spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
We could see the missile more and all that, but that's not what that, I don't think the movie would work. I think the movie would work less if that's how it was laid out. But I think if people there's a whole debate about like what gets people into the theater. And I think what the studios seem to think is like, it's got to be spectacle. It's got to be IP, Marvel, whatever it is, robots and things that you can watch it at home, but it won't have the same effect.
Right.
And we're not going to get, I'll shoot fish in a barrel. We're not going to get like Lawrence of Arabia. We're just not going to get that anymore. Right. Or Bridge of the River Kwai. I'm just going to name Best Picture winners. That's what the show is, But I'm saying like, you're not going to get a movie like that anymore. It's going to be so much harder to get a movie like that.
I mean, to bring up a movie that might be on your podcast in the future, One Battle After Another. Right.
Yeah.
So that got me to the theaters. Now that's also it's PTA and we're film people.
I haven't seen it yet, but if it wins, I will be covering it.
There is a spectacle to it in the sense that I felt like it demanded to be seen on a big screen. Yeah. And having seen it, I was very happy I saw it on a big screen.
And they did some IMAX for it too, right?
Yeah, I didn't see it in IMAX.
Right, but I know there was an IMAX push for it.
Yeah, Universal Studios
was unusual.
The closest one here. Right, and I think some of that is just the PTA of it all. But it's stuff like that I think is, look at Sinners, look at Weapons, look at the things that have made a ton of money.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden they went, oh, look, original things that people went to the theater to see. They're both beautiful. Like, I mean, Sinners is gorgeous. Right. And Weapons is great. Weapons is just super fun.
Yeah.
But it's because there's something new. There's something exciting about it.
It's an interesting moment now. I think Sinners and Weapons and One Battle also. I think there is, I'm feeling very positive in a weird way because I do feel like there is this appetite, a growing appetite for original stuff. Now,
somebody needs to tell the people with all the money.
Yeah, but we're also going to be down to like one fucking studio by the time we walk out of this room. I mean, it's like there's going to be not the studios, but the studio is going to be Warner Brothers, Universal / 20th Century Fox / Disney.
And it'll be owned by 3 billionaires.
Yeah, and so, that's a whole other podcast. But anyway.
I mean, just when we were talking about acting wise, and we mentioned Anthony Mackie, he's fantastic in it also. Yeah, I had forgotten, I think, because he had been swallowed up by the MCU, and
him too.
I forgot how he is one of those people who, when you're watching him, you just kind of get drawn in, and you just forget for a bit that you're watching a guy act. I mean, he's a Juilliard trained actor. It's not surprising, right? Yeah. I think you look at a lot of the Marvel people, or a lot of people who get swallowed up by the IP, and you forget. Oh, once upon a time, they could handle really hard stuff, really nuanced stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I was just excited to see him do his thing again.
He's great. And I mean, all the acting in this is really great. And the way that she's able to sort of like put familiar faces in this, like we talked about, is very effective. Yeah. I mean, like when Ralph Fiennes shows up, it's like such a dramatic entrance, It's like, because are those guys mercenaries? They're like Blackwater?
As I took it, they were British mercenaries.
British mercenaries, right? That's what I thought too.
But at first in the scene, when they come upon them, you don't know if they are
bad guys.
If they're bad guys, you just don't know. And then he takes the thing off, and he's like, "Fuck," like you almost shot us. And we're the good guys, right? Yeah. We're with you guys.
Yeah.
Very arresting. And there is that immediate weird jolt you get of like, ooh, Ralph Fiennes. Yeah. Right? Like, even it's just hard, even though I knew he was coming. I knew he was there. I know he comes in the movie. Like, I've seen the movie before. Yeah. But you get that like, there's a guy I know. Yeah. Cool. And then, he's gonna die very, very, very soon. But it's impressive what she was able to do in short periods of time. Yeah. And what they were able to do with those characters.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I think, just because we'll get into the other movies, I guess now, is just to look at Hurt Locker, obviously, as we discussed, in its the fact that it won the Oscar, right?
Yeah.
So these 10 movies get nominated, and out of all of the potential movies, and that's its own process, and then you've only got 10 to choose from as an Oscar voter.
Right.
And I think you cannot discount, obviously, the political feelings at the time, right? And by that point, we were into the Obama years, and we were all accepting of the fact. Were we in the Obama? Yeah, we were in the Obama years.
Yeah. This is by the time it comes out, Obama's just been sworn in
Right,
6
because
months
it's
earlier.
right, which is great. And so we are all riding very high on
Yeah.
yes, we can kind of hope.
We're feeling good.
We're feeling good, and we're recognizing, okay, well, these are the mistakes of the past. So you can sort of look back at, and I think voters were like, yeah, I have a hand, even if we did not really have a handle on the reality of it yet, we thought we had a handle on the reality. And I think there's a sort of laying on of the laurels of like, you've told an important movie at an important time, and you've done this thing that nobody's been able to do before. And I think that, and again, I think Hurt Locker is super deserving of winning this Oscar. We're going to get to some of the other films. I think there's one that, in my mind, is a better film.
We'll get to it.
But I think there's a certain amount of that.
You know what's so funny? You took me right to what my next thing was. Why do you think this won? And you just did it. So thank you. I think you're right. I think this movie came out even a year earlier with we knew the Bush, we knew we were almost done with Bush, but we didn't know who was going to be in the White House
could
next.
Have been anybody to continue. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think there was a certain, because it did feel like this new moment in America. And I think it was, not only did we have, a Democratic president, we had our first Black president. That might have played into a little bit of why Bigelow won.
Yeah.
Not that she was undeserving, but I think there was this thing of like, okay, we've got a Black president, we've got a female director winning Best Director,
Right.
Both deserved. But I think there's also this feeling of like, we're fixing racism and sexism.
Everything's going to be great from here on out, and nothing will go wrong again.
Nothing will go wrong again.
It's all going to be awesome.
So let's move on to categorically denied. Before we get to Best Picture, let's see if The Hurt Locker was worthy of the other 3 Oscars at once. So let's talk about Best Director. So Catherine Bigelow beats James Cameron, her ex-husband.
Yep.
I think that's a record. She beats James Cameron for Avatar, Quentin Tarantino for Inglourious Basterds, Lee Daniels for Precious, and Jason Reitman for Up in the Air. So of those movies that you've seen that you remember, does Bigelow keep her Oscar?
So I've watched Inglourious Basterds a lot. Like a lot. It is one of those movies that back in the day, when we had cable, if it was on, I'd be like, well, it's
Remote
like
drop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now we're just watching Inglourious Basterds from wherever it is.
Right.
So I do love the film. And I think Tarantino, it's one of his best. Since we're talking about it anyway, I will give you my hidden. It's not a shame. I've never seen Avatar.
Okay.
I've not seen Avatar. I've not seen Avatar 2. I will not be seeing Avatar 3 just because I haven't seen 1 and 2. Like,
I've only seen 1. I haven't seen 2.
got it. I have nothing against Avatar.
That's
I can't
okay.
really speak to Avatar other than I'm fascinated by the fact that it was the number one moneymaker of all time for a very long time. Until Avatar 2, I guess, right?
No,
Something else beat it?
Episode 7. So it was about not a very long time. It was only 6 years. Episode 7 beat it.
Fair enough.
Avatar 2, made $1 billion, but did not crack the
Got
domestic.
it. In any case, it was at one point. It supplanted Titanic, right?
Yeah.
And was obviously this massive film nominated for best picture, and has made, at least at the time, had made zero cultural footprint whatsoever.
Yeah.
Nobody talks. We don't have podcasts about Avatar. Nobody talks about many things have much more importance and have been much smaller. So that's just a fascinating thing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The only reason I didn't see Avatar is I went to go see it when it opened in whenever that was in 3D at some theater. It was sold out. And then I just never went back. That was it. I just never. And then once it was on TV, I'm like, I only want to see it in 3D. Anyway, maybe I would probably give it to Tarantino now. I would.
Okay.
This
is a tough one because I share your reverence for Inglourious Basterds. I've seen all these movies except for Precious. I've never seen it.
Precious is good. It's good. It's a very good, well done drama.
Yeah. I thought that Up in the Air was a huge leap forward for Jason Reitman because I was not into Juno or Thank You for Smoking. I thought Up in the Air was like a really great Alexander Payne movie. I think that's what he was going for.
That's a good example, yeah.
I thought he had a really deft hand with that.
Yeah.
Up in the Air might be my favorite of his movies. Probably. Actually, no, I'll just commit to that. I think that's the best movie he's made, having not seen every single one of them. But I definitely think Up in the Air is the movie of his I've seen the most, that I like the most, that I feel like has
That's fair.
the
I
strongest.
might be in the same
Yeah,
category,
I
even
haven't
though
seen all of them, but
I'm not necessarily a huge Up in the Air fan. I liked it very much.
Yeah.
I don't think it belongs.
No, I think we're talking. I mean, it's really between her and Tarantino. She and Tarantino.
You could argue James Cameron just because of the technical stuff he was able to do, but again, not having seen it, I can't speak.
No,
to
I've
it
seen
other
Avatar.
than-
I think what he's accomplishes is incredible. I think that, you know, I think Avatar is a beautiful movie. It's interesting you talk about it not having a pop cultural imprint. There was a. Do you remember the website The Dissolve?
Sure.
So Nathan Rabin had this incredible column called Forgot Busters, where he would talk about a movie that was in the top 20 or 25 of the year and how it was forgotten, whether it was good or bad. And he did Avatar in like 2014, so like 5 years after it came out. And a friend of mine said when Avatar came out that, whatever you think about Titanic is iconic. I'm the king of the world and the imagery from it.
100%.
If you hated it, like Titanic was instantaneously iconic.
Yes.
The day it came out, we all knew it. We were all either quoting it or mocking it, whatever it was. I agree that Avatar doesn't have that even now, even though we have coming up on our second sequel.
Yeah.
I think this year or maybe next year. I really don't know, but we're coming up on
I think
a second.
it's this year. I think
Is it this? Yeah,
no,
maybe.
no, I'm not sure.
But yeah, so I think that James Cameron has done better in earlier movies. Like a friend of mine once said that James Cameron was put on Earth to do two things: Terminator and Aliens. Terminator just one. So I think that those two movies are James Cameron at his apex. I think Aliens is probably his best movie, where it's just virtuoso. And so Tarantino, it's tough. Yeah. I don't want to take away Catherine Bigelow's Oscar. I think I'd be a toss-up between her and Tarantino. I mean, they're both war movies or different wars or different styles.
She does get to keep her Oscar no matter what we say.
Of course. This is just what we're saying. Okay. So I like Catherine Bigelow a lot. I think she did a great thing here. I think there's a lot of tension in this movie. So if we're gonna isolate directing, I may give it to her by a nose, but it's tough. If we were allowed to do ties, and of course we're allowed to do ties, it's my show, we can make up the rules. I let her share it with Tarantino.
I think that's fair.
Different things, different war movies, different voices.
Yes. Very different tones.
Different tones. So best original screenplay beats Inglourious Bastards, The Messenger, A Serious Man, and Up. What say you?
Well, we're gonna get into it. I say A Serious Man. I think A Serious Man is one of the best written films. Again, this I can only speak to my personal experience and the things I believe about the film. And I have seen A Serious Man a crazy number of times. I think it's I just think there are so many levels to it, and there are so many ways to get into the movie, and there are so many things that it talks about, even though it really has one basic theme.
Right.
That I think the script is pretty gorgeous.
Yeah, I would go Inglourious Bastards. I think this isn't a close call for me in terms of this versus Hurt Locker for a script. I think Inglourious Bastards is just it's just a fantastic script.
It is,
and I think it's just so inventive, just as a piece of writing.
Just what he does at the end.
Yeah,
just killing Hitler.
Yeah,
which because the entire time you're watching this movie about the plot to kill Hitler, and it's going to fail,
right?
And then it does not fail.
Well, he creates a genre. It's like historical fiction, and
heavy on the fiction.
What's that?
Heavy on the fiction.
Yeah, and he does a similar thing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Django to a lesser extent. So I mean, he really kind of reinvents himself. But yeah, I would have given that script. I mean, he wins for Django, which is really good but not perfect, and Bastards and Hollywood on either side of it are so much better.
Wait, did Django come before?
Django was after.
It was after.
Django
so it
was his next movie after.
Almost like sorry, we should have given it to you for.
Yeah, and I just so that's not even a close call for me. Yeah. Editing, it beats Avatar, District 9, Inglourious Bastards, and Precious.
I mean, the so much of the movie is tension.
Yeah.
And so much of tension comes from editing.
Yeah.
I mean, without having watched it specifically in mind of like, let me figure out how these edits are actually doing this, thinking about it now, that is, it feels like it probably was a masterclass in editing.
I agree. It's a real editing narrative has emerged on this podcast. It's come up a lot, even in movies you wouldn't think it would. Like we talked a lot about editing in the Crash episode, how like for all my issues with Crash, it's less than 2 hours. It like flies by. It really doesn't try your patience. For all my issues with that movie. And we've just talked a lot about, I mean, editing has just come up so much more in the back half of the 2000s.
It is so like it's not unlauded because we all understand how important editing is and how I mean, look at every Scorsese movie, right? Like there's
Talk a lot about him.
reasons you hold on
Yep.
to the amazing editors. Tarantino, like you hold on to these people when they're great. But I think the general public doesn't necessarily think about. I have a friend who's my buddy Steven, great guy, and he said once we came out of some movie and he's just like, "Give me 5 minutes in an editing room." I said 5 minutes. He's like 5 minutes in an editing room. Like okay, like people don't really get what it takes and the art behind.
Is he an editor?
No, he's not important.
Okay.
He's not in the film business at all.
Oh, okay.
That's my point is
I see.
he's just a dude who really loves movies.
Okay.
And he was just like, give me 5 minutes in the editing room. And I'm like, right, you don't really have a sense of what it is.
Right.
When I sit down with an editor and an editing with a good editor, I am blown away. Because
Yeah.
we've all done, I can put me in an Avid. Now they don't even use Avid anymore, I don't think. But
you can cut, but it's not the same as editing.
I know how to cut. I know how to move scenes around. But when you see like when somebody's actually doing it and timing it right and getting the match from this to then, you go, oh, okay, you've now affected me emotionally. You've hit my central nervous system in a way that I did not expect.
Yeah.
When that's done, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I spent over 15 years working in reality television, mostly on shows that were absolute dog shit, but it's very editor driven, and editors on those shows are way more important than even in scripted because there's no script.
Yeah.
And the
They're
script's
like
always
writing, right?
That's what very much like writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked with some incredible editors, and we were, again, 9 times out of 10 doing absolute fucking dog shit content, but it was our job.
Yeah.
And it was a great masterclass of just like, oh, this is the nuts and bolts of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And every great director has said a movie's made in the cutting room. And Tarantino, for all his ego, has said when Sally Menke, his editor, who cut everything from Reservoir Dogs through Bastards and died tragically a year after, he said that he always put her credit after his own because she wrote the final draft of the script.
He put his credit after his own. I did not realize.
Yeah, that's what he says. And that's not a man who's got a small ego.
No.
But he always gave it up for Sally Menke.
That's amazing.
More than any other collaborator that he worked with, at least up to that point. Editing. So best sound editing, it beats Avatar, Inglourious Basterds, Star Trek, and Up.
Hard for me to.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say we'll just for best editing and for best sound editing and best sound mixing, I barely know the difference. I'm gonna let Hurt Locker keep these. I also think
For lots of good explosions.
Yeah,
Sounded explodey.
Usually in categories like this, I'm kind of like throw a dart. Meaning that like everyone's so good, like if it had lost these to like if Avatar had taken these, I'd be like, okay, fine.
Sure.
If Bastards had taken them, I'd be like, okay.
The sound was very, again, when I think about it, I think about emotions. I think about how it affects me. And, there was the scene, I think during one of the sniper scenes and he goes up in the building and there's silence and then there's the call to prayer in the background and it's very faint.
Yeah.
And it's just a call to prayer, but there's something about it that just tenses you up a little bit. And then, so it's stuff like that, where it comes in and how it comes in. I would have also had to, I just rewatched it, obviously just at home. And I have a good sound system at home, but not a theatrical sound system at home.
Right.
So to really get the feel for it, I, would have to be back in a theater.
Yeah. I think the sound, both these categories, which is now one category, now it's just one sound category. I don't know when that happened. Cause there's a lot of times it's the same guy winning. Like you see the same guy win. Usually these awards, by the way, go together. It's very rare there's a split between the two. And
sound mixing goes to this, but sound editing.
There have been splits, but it's pretty rare. Like for instance, Jurassic Park won both of these. And usually like the movie that wins both of these, like wins both of these. Like
Makes sense.
Matrix. I mean, yeah. And a lot of times you'll see the same guys go up and get the award. All right. So, let me ask you this. We're going to go to the verdict. Usually I like tie it into the movie. Like I try and do a thing with the movie. I don't know. See if you have a better idea. Should I say, is this movie hot shit or is war just a drug? Or should I say, does this hurt stay in the locker? I can't think of a thing from this movie that's like quotable.
I think you need to leave this in, and you need to clearly do both of them because they're both very entertaining.
Okay, all right. So I couldn't choose between, so I'm gonna do both. Is this movie hot shit, or is war just a drug? Or so does this hurt stay in the locker? Can't believe I'm leaving that in. It's time to test our hindsight with the verdict. So, Eric, against Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, and Education, Inglourious Basterds, Precious, A Serious Man, Up, and Up in the Air. Was The Hurt Locker the best movie nominated this year? Sticking just to the nominees.
While everything we've just talked about is how much I really enjoyed this movie and how I think this movie is an excellent film on all levels, I will have to say no, because I believe A Serious Man is a better film.
Okay.
So Hurt Locker can, what am I saying? Stay in the locker? It's hot shit, but
you don't have to do that part of it.
Shit.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that stupidity. That's just how I get us into it.
I like it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about A Serious Man. I saw A Serious Man when it came out. I see all Coen. I'm a huge. They're my favorite directors, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I hope they get back together again. Whatever is going on, boys.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about Drive Away Dolls and Honey Don't. And
I saw Drive Away Dolls, which I thought was interesting.
They're fun.
You are seeing. You know, it's funny. We talked about with Alan Foreman because we covered No Country, so it was a very Coen-centric episode,
sure.
and he hadn't seen Drive Away Dolls, and I hadn't seen Macbeth. But it's interesting. Just you still can see what each one brought to it. Like, oh, Ethan's the wacky comedy guy.
100%.
Joel's the formerly serious one.
Yep.
And
their individual films very much speak to that, meaning they're missing the other thing that makes their stuff so magical.
Seems that way, yeah.
Yes, because my favorite thing in the world is dark comedy. For better or for worse, that's what makes me laugh. That's what makes me happiest when I'm watching a movie, when I'm seeing theater, if I'm doing an immersive thing. I love that world. I think that's my worldview.
Right.
So as a result, of course, I tend towards Coen Brothers. I tend towards Kubrick. Those are the people that I kind of, go for. Those are the films I love. Though we won't get into Eddington right now, and there's things about Eddington that are good, but I love Ari Aster and the way that Ari has approached a comedic way of approaching horror.
Sure.
I could go on about Beau is Afraid, which is a very controversial movie, but I could definitely talk about it. So I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, and I am a completist. I have seen everything that they've done together. I've seen everything they've done separately. I've seen the things that they have just written that they have not directed.
Wait, so you've seen Crime Wave?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because there was a point where I made it an actual I now need to see everything by these guys, right?
Okay.
So the first I'll say the first Coen Brothers movie that I ever saw was I was in college, and my parents, who you know well, called and they said, oh, we just saw the worst movie we've ever seen. And I was like, what is it? And they said it was a thing called Barton Fink. And I said, oh, they're playing it at the college cinema. I'm going to go see it. And because I knew we had slightly different movie tastes. And it became instantly one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
And so then I started back on well, I got to go see what else these guys have done. Right?
Yeah, the
so
first
I started
3.
going back into their history, and then I've just stuck around. So Serious Man comes out, and I see it when it opens. I sit sort of middle on the aisle, on the left aisle. There you go. That's where I saw A Serious Man from. And from the moment the final credits came on, I just went, I don't know what I just saw, but I need to see it again. And I know this is important to me as just a person in the world. Now, I think some of that is, they grew up in a relatively secular Jewish household in the late 60s, and they were in Minnesota.
Right.
We grew up in relatively secular Jewish, Reformed Jewish household in the 70s and 80s in Miami.
Right.
But the synagogue in A Serious Man is very similar to the synagogue that we went to.
Yeah.
The people who were in it, these actors who they got, and the Coens have some of the best casting always.
We talked a lot about that 2 episodes ago.
I mean, sure, No Country. My God.
Everybody with 2 lines in that movie is plucked perfectly.
100%. And I feel like, I don't know if it's the same casting director as this, but whatever it was, they find these people who just fit perfectly.
Yeah.
And so it spoke to me because I understood the people in this film, and I understood the questions that it was asking, because I think I had a lot of those questions as a young man growing up. I remember asking our Rabbi Cook, whose son was one of my best friends, what do I do if I'm not sure I believe in God? And he said, this is a question we ask as Jews. I think I got the impression, and I can't speak for Rabbi Cook, but it's possible that he at the time wasn't sure if he believed in God,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, or at least that's what I took from it.
Yeah.
And so, this is a movie that if you haven't seen it, it is about a Jewish man. Michael Stuhlbarg plays Larry Gopnik, and it's not Michael Stuhlbarg's debut, but
He's
gosh
never been the
almighty,
lead before.
yeah,
Never been the lead.
yeah.
And I don't think has been since.
Yeah, I mean, because he's an incredible versatile actor who disappears into roles. I mean,
He's not a
watch
leading
him
man.
No, he's not a leading man.
Yeah.
But in this, he is, because he's playing schlubby Jewish dude in the late '60s. It's perfect.
Right.
And he is essentially a Job story, is the idea. He is beset by all of these things, and he is questioning constantly, where do I fit in the world? And how do I know what I'm supposed to do? And if you look at the film, both from the way it is initially written to the way that they film it, it is all about presenting two sides of something and saying you have to make a decision. Essentially, the decision you make, it doesn't really matter.
Mm.
And to me, that's what the entire movie is so beautifully about. And it's about us as powerless people in the world realizing that our power comes from just accepting that, making a decision, and moving on with our lives. And it's truly like how I have, like, it's become my worldview, in a way where it has gotten me through, the Trump years, I guess. It's how I have like recalibrated in my ability to kind of like live my life, but also fight back against the things we can fight back against, because you make a decision and you go with it. And I cannot worry about whether my decision is necessarily right for the world, because I'm a small, insignificant part of it, and I cannot really know any of this. So this is all a way to say it is a very important movie to me. That said, I also think it is so beautifully made. It is so, everything is intentional.
Right.
And it is incredibly funny while also asking these huge questions. And I think it does more to ask giant questions about the world than any of the other films of this year. And I think that's just a huge part of it.
Breaking format a little bit, I assume this would be your best movie of the year, period, nominated or not?
This is my favorite movie of all time.
Is it really?
Serious Man is my favorite movie.
Oh, wow.
Serious Man is my favorite movie.
Of all time.
And again, this is because I recognize this is a personal thing, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like my favorite musical theater. Not that we're here to talk about musical theater. Is this show Caroline or Change, which is a Tony Kushner show, and that's also because I can relate to it. That doesn't necessarily. So it's hard for me to separate those things.
No, that's great. I didn't know that was your favorite movie of all time. I just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, well, this is definitely his favorite movie of 2009. That's normally we go to that category separately.
Sure.
I'm just doing it now because it's Serious Man's a movie I haven't seen in a long time. I probably had a similar reaction to it that I did to No Country, where I was really into it, and then the end kind of was like, well, I'm not so sure. But
Sure.
we talked a lot about this two episodes ago, how like I've come to embrace the end of No Country as I've gotten older, and just got past what I thought it should be, accepting it for what it is, not that I rationalize it. I don't have anything to add to that incredible take on it. I'm going to add one thing that stayed with me about this movie, and it's such a small thing, but because I know that the Coens do everything intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
They're not improvisational. They're very meticulous. There's a character, you probably know the character better than I, who gets killed in a car accident, an older man.
Cy Abelman.
Okay, yep. Thank you. And he's making this left turn, and there's like this blind, and I just remember thinking when I saw that, I laughed, because I'm like, that is the like most dangerous blind left turn ever. And I know that they scouted this and probably like built the driveway, because like I just thought that was so funny, because I get like anxiety about making certain left turns. I will go 5 minutes out of my way to avoid certain left turns that I know are hairy, like just physically hairy, where there's a blind spot. And I just remember, and I know it's intentional, I just remember when I saw that, not knowing what was going to happen.
Right.
I just remember thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, an accident's going to happen. I wasn't like ahead of the movie, but I just remember thinking like, that is so genius, because they're doing that on purpose.
Yeah, well, not only doing it on purpose. So yes, A, 100% doing it on purpose. B, so that, talk about editing, that sequence is intercut. So you're going back and forth between Cy Abelman waiting at the left, and they're going on the blinker, tick, 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 tick,
Yeah.
And so there's tension,
Because
right?
it's the
They're building
60s, so the
tension
blinkers are really loud.
really loud.
Yeah.
And you know he's going to make this left. And you're watching this blind turn and you are thinking, especially if you're a driver, if you're over
Yeah.
the age of 16, you're like, don't make, this is very dangerous to
Yeah.
be making. Then you're also with Larry in the car at the same time, who is having to deal with like the traffic there and whatever. And he's thinking about his own stuff. And he sees the kid drive by on the bicycle, the kid that he's not sure, did he cheat? How am I going to deal with this?
Right.
Did he try to bribe me with money? So he's all tension. He sees it. And this whole time you were waiting for Cy Abelman to get into a car accident because he's making this blind left. But then all of a sudden, because Larry's not paying attention, he's the one who gets hit from behind.
Right.
He's in a car accident. He now comes in. He's flustered. He's walking around, whatever. Finds out only later. He answers the phone and his son's like, Dad, can you come home? And he's like, oh, I got to fix the whatever again. He's like, Mom's crying. Why? Cy Abelman died.
Uh-huh.
That's the first we've known that Cy got into.
Right. We don't see him
crash.
get killed. Yeah.
Later on, when Larry is questioning stuff to the rabbi, because he keeps going to the rabbi to ask, he keeps going to higher levels of rabbis to ask questions. He says, I got into an accident, Cy got into an accident. It might have been at the exact same time. What do I make of this? Is this God trying to give me a sign? And it's no. It was the filmmakers were trying to give us a sign and trying to say like, oh, maybe these things are the same thing. You'll never know. It doesn't matter. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great moment.
Yeah. So my best film nominated is also the best film of the year. That's why I sort of phrase it that way with you. So for both the best movie nominated for best picture and the best movie of the year, I'm going with Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, and that's I would, if I weren't such a Serious Man fan, I'd probably be on board.
Well, it's your favorite movie of all time.
Yes,
so
yes, but I love Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah. So for me, this was an interesting moment because except for the songs he chose, nothing Tarantino had done since Jackie Brown fully worked for me. I really just wasn't into the Kill Bills or Death Proof. To me, it was just like a lot of cool sequences, but there was just nothing, there was just no meat on the bone. So I wasn't that excited about this movie when it came out. I knew I was going to see it, but I was definitely a little like, okay, we'll see. But here, I think that same style works because he's got like this great story and like a really epic, muscular approach to it. And I think he really kind of reinvented himself. I mean, he reinvented himself with the Kill Bills. I just wasn't along for the ride.
Sure.
And again, I don't think those movies are terrible. There's cool things in them. I just don't give a shit about samurai movies. And God forgive me, I wasn't engaged with the story. I didn't care about the characters.
It didn't help that one movie split into two. You then had to wait a while to.
Yeah,
you don't get the full. You can watch it at home now if you want to watch 4 hours of movie.
Right, and
but I agree.
Some people
I get
swear
that.
by that, and Death Proof again was something that just was kind of a whiff for me. Again, cool things in it. I just wasn't interested in the story he was telling. Some incredible filmmaking,
I'm with you on that.
I don't think there's a better director I don't think there's a director working who's better at needle drops than Quentin Tarantino, even in the movies of his that I don't like. I have a playlist on my phone. It's called QT. It's all the needle drops from his movies, and it's my favorite playlist, and it's like 6 hours long. Just he's got an incredible ear for that, and I can name great directors who suck at it. Tarantino's the only director where I can't tell you what his best movie is because I have it down to 3. Every other director, Spielberg, Scorsese, Fincher, I can blurt out what my favorite movie. Tarantino, I've never been able to choose his best movie. I have it down between Inglourious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and in a slightly warmish take, Reservoir Dogs. I can't choose between those 3, and whenever I watch one of them, I'm like, okay, that's the best one. That's the best one. I'm down to those 3.
Sure.
I know it's not the other ones. I'm down to those 3.
So you have a recency bias depending on what you've seen.
Yes, but I know I have it,
Yeah.
so I don't go to press with it.
Sure.
So, but I think with Bastards is probably the best example of his genius for casting, and obviously Christoph Waltz, who we never heard of, and he wins the Oscar.
Incredible.
But also Melanie Laurent, Daniel Bruhl, Michael Fassbender. These are all actors that are still in our ecosystem. Yeah. And I think everything he's made since Jackie Brown, I think he's a little bit moved away from like quotable dialogue. Which doesn't say this dialogue is bad, but I think like the truly quotable dialogue from his first 3 movies, I think he's sort of past that. But I do think that there's at least 2 scenes in this movie that are like kind of like one-act plays. The very opening and the scene in the basement.
Fucking brilliant. And the scene in the basement is
those could
brilliant.
be like plays you would go and see because they're like 15, 20 minutes long. They're long. You could go and see those in like actors' workshops, but like, those are great.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something that he's done a lot in these last few movies where the scenes are just really breathing, almost to an absurd degree.
Yeah. But they have you. They're
Yeah.
breathing, and because there are things that can breathe. Terrence Malick movies breathe, but a lot of times they don't. You're not necessarily on the edge of my seat. You're just like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But like Inglourious Bastards. Okay, so I saw it at the Thousand Oaks. At the Thousand Oaks. Now
Where
it's
were you
an
sitting?
AMC.
What section?
I will tell you. So I was in this like almost balcony type thing, all the way far back. It was not a true balcony, but that it was like you had to go up another set of stairs, right?
Okay.
But I got to come in through the side because I had gone to the new like bar they had there where you could get food. It was like the first time I was like eating like proper food in a theater. It was one of those.
Right.
So it's like an Alamo, but they were trying to do it at like this much larger theater.
Right.
It wasn't an AMC at the time. I forgot what it was. Anyway, point is I don't remember what I was eating, sadly. That's not part of the story. That's not my part of my skills. But let's say I was having chicken fingers. I don't know.
You probably were having chicken fingers.
It was probably chicken fingers. I feel like it was like slightly upscale food. That was the thing though. Like
Okay.
they're like, ooh, you can get what? But let's just say it was chicken fingers. But I remember thinking like, ooh, I really want to eat these chicken fingers. But I didn't touch my food because I didn't want I didn't want to mess with I was just from the beginning, I was so goddamned into it.
Right.
And it wasn't until she's running away and he shoots and he says goodbye and then the movie like takes its next breath and I was like, oh, chicken fingers.
Yeah.
And then I got to eat my chicken fingers. That's anything that can stop me from eating chicken fingers or whatever it is impressively
the
done.
chicken finger scale, it was like 10.
It was high on the chicken finger scale.
Yeah. I think that for all the complaining I've done for 10 episodes now, and we'll do next week too, about my disenchantment with this decade, I really feel like it was ending on kind of a hopeful note. I was very hopeful going into the 2010s. So our next category is Spotlight. This is where we spotlight something from any movie, like a performance, cinematography, score, a stunt sequence, any aspect of a movie that just popped for us in any given year. So Eric, what popped for you? What do you want to spotlight in 2009?
I will spotlight a section of a movie that I think is brilliant.
Okay.
And I've seen once.
Okay.
And I will never watch again.
Love the lead in. Let's hear it.
It is the first 3 or 4, I don't know exactly how long it is, minutes of Up.
Oh. Got it.
That relationship. I'm like getting chills thinking about it. Like you know my wife very well. I've been with Sabrina we're about to celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary.
I was there, yeah.
You were there. You were at our wedding.
First wedding I ever went to.
We should point out, since we're just getting into our history, that our dads went to college together.
Yes.
That's how we met long ago.
Long ago.
And we've remained friends for, how old am I? I'm 26. No. For many, many years. Half a century for me. Lord Almighty. You're younger than me. But there is something about the way that they put it together for a very good reason.
Well, set up if people don't know the opening of Up, where just people might not know.
So the opening of Up is a young man meets a young woman, and they fall in love, and they have this beautiful relationship. And it's Michael Giacchino's score, and there's no dialogue in this section.
And he won an Oscar for the score, not incidentally.
And well, he did, because it's a beautiful score,
fantastic,
gorgeous score. And a lot of these other movies have great scores in them. Hurt Locker actually had a really, really affecting score. It was sort of more the violins and whatever.
But Giacchino in this movie is really on fire.
And so you're watching this couple grow and go through a marriage and a little bit of the ups and downs, but they're clearly very much in love. And then they try to have a child and they can't, and they try again. I mean, this is a kids movie. Pixar. And the way it affects this couple is so strong, and it's very important for the movie to come, which is about this old man finally connecting with a kid, right? But they never have a kid, and they grow up and they grow old together without a child, and she passes away, and he's now left by himself. And it's so beautifully done. I just remember sitting in the theater, 2/3 of the way back on the right, sobbing. And I am not a particularly easy to cry, emotional dude in movies at all, but I was a mess. And when we later showed it to our kids at home, I was like, I will come in when this part is done. Let me know when this is over.
So you've never watched this section again?
No.
Oh, okay, that's what you meant. Okay.
But I've watched Up a ton of times.
Okay.
But every time, what I just pitched you is what I remember from seeing it the first time from 2000, because I've never seen that section again. So if I got some of the details wrong, that's
no.
So yeah, it's that. I think it's brilliant.
I remember when I saw Up, when we learned that she died, I remember, I think I saw it, maybe I might have seen it opening night. I definitely saw it like with a big crowd. It was opening night, opening weekend. And I remember hearing sort of the air in the room change. Like, oh, no, you know, like
You also are not expecting this in a Pixar movie.
yeah, I would say that not having seen all the Pixar movies, and I'm not even sure how to take it. That's probably their finest moment as far as just like a thing they've accomplished within a movie.
And they'll do the thing where they kill off parents, right? Finding Nemo, they kill.
That's
you know,
Disney. That's old as time.
Exactly. That's what they do.
Parents always die in those movies.
It felt so real, and so for a thing that was animated, the emotions felt so real.
Yeah, that is very much in the spirit of this category. Well done. It's interesting because I remember, you know, being very affected by that also. And I think that's what most people, when the takeaway from Up is like, oh my God, that opening.
Yeah.
I think for me, that opening is in sort of starker relief because I felt like the movie got too silly for me. It was like dogs flying planes and stuff like
and talking birds.
I didn't dislike it, but I feel like, Pixar is somebody who has young kids and watches a lot of animated movies. I mean, Pixar almost never puts a wrong foot down in terms of like at least what they're going for.
They're always aiming high.
They're always aiming high. Maybe they don't always hit, but that's a great one. I mean, obviously, Up is a movie that I've been seeing a lot in my research because it was up for Best Picture and won score, and I'm sure won Best Animated Movie. I can't imagine it didn't. You picked a section of a movie. I, oddly enough, did the same thing. I have to be a little more vague about this section because it's like a plot twist, but I'm going to try and talk around it, and I'm sorry that I'm going to be so vague. So there's a movie called Duplicity that came out in 2009.
You can't spoil Duplicity. It came out in 2009.
But even
if you want people to go watch it.
I want people to watch it.
I love Duplicity. That's a Gilroy, right?
Good. Yeah. So Tony Gilroy, who wrote and directed Michael Clayton 2 years before, not even 2 years before, but the two calendar years before. This was his follow-up. It's a really fun and corporate espionage movie with Julia Roberts and Clive Owen. There's a moment in this movie, and I'm going to be sort of vague about it, where the plot takes a turn, and I was confused, but I was excited because I knew that Tony Gilroy knew what was going on. You probably know what part I'm talking about. The part in Italy. I'll say that much.
Yep.
And I remember...
Turns everything on its head.
What's that?
Turns everything on its head.
Turns everything on its head. That's all we'll say. But I remember this being one of the greatest moments for me as a film viewer in this decade. I just remember being like, wait, what? What's going on? And I was like, ooh, I don't know what's going on. And this guy is going to like reveal it. And I know he's going to reveal it. I know he's going to land the plane. Duplicity is one of these movies. I have a list on Letterboxd where like good movies with either generic or bad titles. It's such a Gerber baby food generic title. It's like Edge of Tomorrow, another good movie with a shitball title.
Live, Die, Repeat. They just
Live, Die, Repeat. They had the ad
Live,
campaign.
Die, Repeat. It was right there.
It was right there. The ad department had it, but that one's worse. But but Duplicity, is a movie that kind of reminds me of like Charade or the Thomas Crown Affair remake, and I think it's a movie you should definitely check out. I'm spotlighting this one, but this one section that I'm talking around I was just so thrilled.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm not going to try to compare it to anything as profound as the opening of Up, but I had a similar reaction where it was like, I was just so owned in this moment. And I just had that experience so seldom in this decade.
Yep.
And this is a movie that was not successful.
No.
Is sort of obscure now.
I think it suffered from the Clive Owen curse, and I love Clive Owen, but I had a friend who had the Clive Owen
what is the Clive Owen curse?
It was like a Clive Owen, what did he call it? It wasn't a Clive Owen multiplier, but it was basically take a movie, put Clive Owen in it, it will make 30% less than it should make. And it's not Clive Owen's fault. I think he's
fantastic.
I think he's great. I love Children of Men. I mean, look, I like Croupier, like the first thing I ever saw him in.
Yeah.
I really like Clive Owen, but it does sort of bear out that he has not exactly been that guy. You know, I think it's like Matt Damon is the most bang for buck actor or something like that. If you count up what he gets paid for how much his movies have made.
Oh, interesting.
He is like the highest percentage or something like that. Okay. I feel like Clive is unfortunately quite low on that list.
Well, Clive Owen is an example. I think I've talked to this before, and maybe I'll cut this out, but where, you take a really interesting screen presence And this is actually true of Renner. I'll take it full scale. Where it's like we take an interesting screen presence, and then you just like spread him really thin. And I think that Clive Owen had a couple. Like, I mean, he's fantastic in Closer, which he's Oscar nominated for.
Yeah, he is.
And was probably like my second. You know, I think I let Morgan Freeman keep his $1 Million Baby Oscar, but Clive Owen was the only other one. I was like, ooh, that would have been, if he had won, that would have been like an interesting. I would have been okay with that. But yeah, I think. And this is like such a movie star part, and that he plays the hell out of it. And he's with Julia Roberts, who, you know, was the biggest. I mean, at this point, her star was a little bit fading.
Yeah, she's not Pretty Woman anymore.
Right.
I mean, she's still a very pretty woman. But she's not Pretty Woman. She looks great in the movie.
She's great in the movie, and their chemistry is great. That's kind of all you can ask. Yeah. This is a movie that should have made him a big movie star.
But it is essentially a con film, right? Yeah. It's just a corporate espionage con.
Yeah, very low stakes. Like, no one gets murdered in this movie. Yeah. There's no guns.
It's also Giamatti. Right? And Tom Wilkinson. Also fantastic in it.
Yeah.
When you get to like what it's actually about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because this whole time you're kind of, anyway, yeah, highly recommend it for anybody listening if you have not seen Duplicity.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it in a long time, but I really like that movie.
Yeah.
I show that to Teddy. You can cut that out. Sorry, I just realized Teddy will really like Duplicity.
Yes.
I'm going to put that on my list.
Yeah. So, Eric, where can people find you? What do you got coming up?
Where can they find me? I guess they can find me on Instagram. Okay. I do have a public Instagram. Most of my Instagram is private, and it's my dogs. That's mainly what it is, my family and my dogs. But I think it's Eric Garcia, the writer, is Instagram. And I think technically I have a website, but I don't really update it. And then, yeah, right now I'm just in the process of dealing with a couple TV projects, dealing with a couple film projects, you know, I think, and some theater stuff. So soon there will be more things, but as you know, this is always until you can specifically get the green light to talk about things, I'm never given the green light to talk about things. So now if people want to look up my stuff, they can Wikipedia me or IMDb me, and they can go watch Kaleidoscope on Netflix if they want, or whatever they want to do.
Cool. Well, when the stuff comes into shape, you can come back. We'll have you back to plug it with my huge audience. You can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Vimeo. You can check out some short films I've done there. You can find me on Letterboxd, which is probably the most essential place to find me in relation to this podcast. I'm always making lists. And yeah. So, Eric, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. This was very fun.
Very fun. That's it for this show. Next episode, Matthew Scott Weiner and I discuss the top 10 movies of the 2000s. Till then, looking forward to looking back.